Sure. Here's a story about a man named Elias who faced the hardest decision of his life. The choice of a lifetime. Elias Carter had spent his entire career as a firefighter. For 15 years, he had run into burning buildings, pulled people from wreckage, and faced death without hesitation. But nothing had ever tested him like the decision he had to make on a cold November night. A call came in, an apartment complex engulfed in flames. The fire had spread too quickly, leaving people trapped inside. Elias and his team arrived to find chaos, screams, collapsing walls, smoke so thick it blurred the line between life and death. He rushed inside, following the cries for help. On the second floor, he found an elderly woman, unconscious but still breathing. He lifted her into his arms, but just as he turned to leave, he heard another voice, a child's voice, coming from the apartment next door. His heart pounded. The fire was spreading fast, and he knew the way back was already weakening. The woman in his arms had moments left before the smoke overtook her. The child's voice was faint but desperate. He couldn't carry them both. Elias had to make a choice. If he left the woman to go for the child, she would almost certainly die before he returned. But if he carried her out first, there was no guarantee he'd make it back in time to save the child. For the first time in his life, he hesitated. Then, without another thought, he turned and ran, carrying the woman down the stairs, pushing past flames that licked at his gear, feeling the heat sear his skin. He made it outside, gasping for air as paramedics rushed to take her, and then he ran back in. The ceiling groaned as he sprinted toward the child's voice. Flames had swallowed most of the apartment, but in the far corner, a little girl huddled beneath a table, tears streaking down her soot-covered face. Elias lunged for her just as the ceiling above cracked. With one final burst of strength, he pulled her into his arms and ran. The building groaned, wood splintered, and the world became a blur of fire and noise. And then he was outside. The building collapsed behind him. His lungs burned, his vision swam, but in his arms the little girl clung to him, alive. Later, when he sat in the hospital recovering, Elias learned the truth. The woman he had saved first had a weak heart. If he had waited even another minute, she wouldn't have made it. The girl, though scared, had been protected from the worst of the smoke. He had made the right decision. But Elias never forgot the weight of that moment, when he had to decide who to save first, knowing one wrong choice could cost a life. It was the hardest decision of his life, and he would have to live with it forever.